QR code for the feedback form, which will be available outside of the hall, and also it will be projected on the screen for your convenience. So that's all for the housekeeping. Thank you for your attention, and we'll be back soon.
Sekali lagi para hadirin sekalian, kepada tetamu-tamu
Amat berhormat Datuk Seri Sarani Muhammad. All participants, please remain standing. Let us honor our country by singing the national anthem, followed by the Perak State Anthem. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. Please be seated. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh and good evening. Yang amat berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani bin Muhammad, Menteri Besar Perak Darul Rizwan with beloved wife, Yang Berbahagia Datin Sri Eza Zubin, Yang berhormat Datuk Muhammad Zahir bin Abdul Khalid, Yang di-Pertua Negeri Perak, Yang berhormat Ahli-Ahli Majlis Mesyuarat Kerajaan Negeri Perak, orang-orang besar jajahan Negeri Perak, Yang berhormat Ahli Parlimen dan Ahli Dewan Negeri, distinguished guests, heads and representatives of departments and NGOs, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen. Before we begin, let's recite Al-Fatihah for His blessings. May Allah grant us with abundance of good blessings. Al-Fatihah. Amin, amin, ya Rabbal Alamin. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome once again to this exclusive session of the World Conference on Islamic Thought and Civilization, WCIT 2024. This evening session is titled Voice of Justice, Naledi Pandor's Insight on Palestinian Struggle. We are incredibly honored to have Her Excellency Dr. Naledi Pandor with us today. Dr. Naledi will be sharing her profound insights and perspective on this critical issue, and also her efforts to seek justice for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. We are also honored to have Associate Professor Dr. Maisarah Ahmad, the CEO of Institute Darul Rizwan, as the moderator for today's exclusive session. Without further ado, I would like to invite Associate Professor Dr. Maisarah Ahmad to introduce our distinguished speaker and moderate the session. Dr. Maisarah, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Shaf, our beautiful MC for the day. Alhamdulillah. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Rabbi shrah lana sudurana wa yassir lana umurana wahlul 'uqdatam min lisanina yafqahu qawlana. Alhamdulillah. Thank you. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi taala wabarakatuh. Very good afternoon. Salam Perak Sejahtera 2030. We are honored today to have our beloved Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani Muhammad. Thank you so much. In collaboration with WCIT 7 installation, we bring to you an exclusive session with none other Dr. Naledi Pandor to share her insights on the Palestinian struggle. So before we begin our session, just a bit of house rule. We're going to take up about 75 minutes to have this discussion, but the session with Dr. Pandor will take place about 30 minutes, and then we will open to the floor. But if there are burning questions from the floor, please feel free to, stand behind the microphone, identify yourself and your affiliation, and go ahead with your question to be answered by Dr. Pandor. And please be mindful and respectful when delivering your question. All right? With that said, Dr. Pandor, how are you today?
Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
Thank you.
For your information, Dr. Pandor, this is your third session, right? Third session, right? Third session, your first session, 2 sessions yesterday, and 1 session today. Right, Alhamdulillah, and another one tomorrow. So with that said, I do know that Dr. Pandor is a familiar figure, a famous figure that has brought forward the struggles of Palestinians to the International Court of Justice. So let's give her a big round of applause. So with that said, I would like to take the opportunity to share a bit of your biography, just a bit, and then we'll go straight to our, discussion, sharing session, up close and personal session with you, yeah? Okay. Her Excellency, Dr. Naledi Pandor, is the 12th Minister of International Relations and Cooperation, Republic of South Africa. Dr. Pandor was appointed to this position in 2019, and previously she has served as the Minister of Higher Education and Training from 2018 to 2019, Minister of Science and Technology from 2014 to 2018, Minister of Home Affairs from 2012 to 2014, Minister of Science and Technology from 2009 to 2012, and Minister of Education from 2004 to 2009. My interaction with her yesterday, she mentioned to me that she used to be a teacher, right, Dr. Pandor? Yes. So there are some similarities here that we could see with our Chief Minister, Dato' Sri Sarani. He is also Cikgu Sarani, right? So, Dr. Pandor, there's a long list of your accolades, but I would like to go straight to our discussion for today. Right. So, Dr. Pandor, in one of your speeches, we've seen in the YouTube, the famous YouTube channel, you've said that there will be no peace if Palestine is not free. So, with that said, you've been the vocal critic towards what Israel's been doing to the Palestinian people. And with that said as well, your past experience through apartheid regime has really shaped and the person who you are today. So with that said, if you could share with us your personal journey and towards advocacy, and in specific, we would like to know what motivated you to take up this course, and how has your personal journey shaped your advocacy for international justice? And also, being a lady, I know that you have a loving husband and your children. How has this as well impacted your family throughout this journey of championing global humanity? Dr. Pandor?
Thank you very much, Dr. Ahmad. And assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. And good afternoon to all the delegates. Your Excellency, Chief Minister, we're so honored to have you here. Thank you very much for taking up your time to be with us. I can report to you, Excellency, that we've had excellent contributions from all the speakers today. It's been a most marvelous conference. In terms of the question that has been posed by Dr. Ahmad, I think it's important for me to state that the contribution of South Africa to the struggle of the people of Palestine does not begin with me. I believe, in all modesty, I have to say that the initiative that we will speak of later, of the court case that we took up at the International Court of Justice, was a decision of the government of South Africa. I am the face of this decision's implementation, but it belongs, the decision, to the government of South Africa. However, having been the face, I have also become somewhat of the target of those who do not support this issue of freedom and justice for the people of Palestine. So how did we get here? I spoke of this yesterday a little bit. I have to begin by saying that as South Africans, we hold very dear our belief that all people are equal and all human beings are equally deserving of human rights. This is a very important, fundamental belief that all of us should share. No person is deserving of being treated unequally. Because of the way that we were treated, with over 350 years of racial discrimination in my own country, South Africa, we have come to hold to this belief of equality and the equality of human beings and the importance of human rights very, very strongly. And so as a government established after a struggle for freedom, we have taken on the burden of saying to ourselves as South Africans who are free, that wherever there is oppression, we will not be silent. And if it is possible to act, we will act. This is what lies behind what we try to do. Now, the quotation that Dr. Ahmad referred to comes from a speech of President Nelson Mandela that was made in 1995 when he began to talk much more about the foreign policy positions of South Africa. And one of the things he said in a major foreign policy speech was that although in 1995 we had already had our first election and had achieved freedom, and we now had the first democratically elected president of South Africa, President Nelson Mandela, he said, although South Africa is free, South Africa can never be completely free until the people of Palestine are free. This is what Nelson Mandela said. And as the inheritors of the legacy of Nelson Mandela, we cannot forget those words. So as the African National Congress, which is my political party, every time when we meet as a party to discuss the policies of the African National Congress, one of the resolutions we adopt each time is a resolution in support of Palestine. In 2017, at our National Congress of our party, we adopted a decision that South Africa must close its embassy in Israel. And in 2018, we withdrew our ambassador from Israel. So we haven't had an ambassador there since 2018. And in the course of the onslaught on Gaza, we have entirely closed our embassy in Tel Aviv, in Israel. We have an embassy in Ramallah. It continues to function, and anyone who wants services from South Africa's embassy has to go to Palestine because we don't have an embassy in Israel. So, Dr. Ahmad, to answer your question, the attitude, the strong belief comes from the government, comes with the support of the governing party, and is part of the fabric of our politics in South Africa. No member of my party, of the African National Congress, can be able to proudly stand up and say they support Zionist Israel. It's just not permissible in the million members of our organization. So this is the history that we come from. We come from a liberation movement We grew and matured in struggle. We achieved freedom, but we have not forgotten that there are many millions who are not free. And our struggle, which was won, as I said yesterday, through support from many in the international community, what that struggle has done and the manner in which it was waged has imposed on us an obligation never to forget, and not to forget to use our freedom to seek freedom for others. That is to answer your question.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. I do believe we have segued nicely to the next question. Yeah, we're talking about leadership, right, Dr. Pandor? Based on your experience, are there any strategies that Perak or Malaysia, for that matter, can actually emulate based from your experience? Because it's very much a trial and error, I would say. So if you could share with us in regards to that, because how effective leadership within countries could help to address and overcome systemic injustices. On that note as well, to what extent civil society or civil organization, as well as think tanks, could contribute towards promoting international justice, as well as influencing government and international policy on human rights issues? Yeah.
I think that the first thing for a government or a political party is that we must decide who we are. This is very vital. In the Constitution of South Africa, we had to develop a constitution that was modern and that didn't go back to the 300 years of oppression, but that reflected the objectives we wished to achieve with freedom. But in the Constitution, in order not to forget that we once had a struggle, we began our Constitution with a preamble that said, we the people recognize the past injustice of our history, recognize those who struggled for freedom. So our struggle has shaped who we are. So our principles are based on justice, on freedom, and on recognition and respect for human dignity. So I think the first thing, Dr. Ahmad, is first you must decide who you are, because you can't be all things. If you have a government that wants to be all things, then it can be easily swayed from its values and principles. So as South Africa, we support justice, human dignity, equality, enjoyment of human rights. And if anyone tries to dissuade us or say to us, we will give you a lot of money as long as you oppress this one, we will not accept that money. If someone says, do this thing, and we will reward you with big grants, with lots of pounds and dollars, we will say, we rather keep our principles, we don't want that kind of money. So you have to have principles, you have to uphold certain values, and I think that is very important. But linked to that, you must have organizational form as well. If you have a government structure that is amorphous, that does not have strong political organization, it's very difficult to have principles. So I think a coherent, organized political organization is important in supporting you to uphold principles. So, for example, when we took very long with deciding on what to do with the embassy in Israel, it was our members who kept saying, hey, you're not moving. We passed a resolution. Why are you not doing anything? So the organization ensured you follow through on its decisions. So those are some of the drivers. Now, on the role of civil society, you will recall that part of what caused the fall of apartheid was the role of religious organizations, was the role of sports bodies. You will remember that teams all over the world in different sports sectors would not play any sport with apartheid South Africa. And this is what we had hoped for with the Olympics. And we congratulate the athlete from Algeria for refusing to compete with an Israeli yesterday. This is very important. Similarly, with apartheid South Africa, rugby players, New Zealand, Argentina, Australia, they would not play rugby with apartheid South Africa because it was a racial team that excluded black people.
Yeah. Solidarity for humanity.
Solidarity in action is important. And what the Palestinians need in their cause is an international campaign by different sectors to ensure that wherever we are providing support to that cause. We should be asking our universities, as I have been asking universities in South Africa, why do they have research partnerships with Israeli universities when Israel has bombed all the universities in Gaza? All have been destroyed. So we have been talking to our universities to encourage them not to have ties with Israeli universities. And alhamdulillah, 5 have broken ties so far. We're waiting for the rest. And we should be doing that all over the world. It's not just South Africa's role to play. It's all of us all over the world. Why will any university relate with an Israeli university when Israel is destroying universities in other regions of the world? So we must ask our universities, why do you have relations? We must ask our business, why do you have relations? That's how we fought apartheid, with sanctions and boycott. And we need a similar sanctions and boycott from civil society, which will assist the Palestinian people in this struggle for freedom.
Right. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Pandor. I believe it's a good time for us to open to the floor for question and answer before we move on to the next question. Well, anyone from the floor? The microphone we have 2 microphones, I believe. 1, 2. One on your left and another one on your right. Yes, please identify yourself, your affiliation, and again, be mindful and respectful. Thank you.
Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.
Alaikum salam.
Madam Moderator, Dr. Naledi, it is an honor for me to be here to be listening to you on your struggle. My name is Azril Muhammad Amin. I'm a lawyer by profession as well as heading an NGO, Center for Human Rights Research and Advocacy. Just 2 brief questions. I mean, we have all read the news about South Africa's struggle to achieve justice up to the level of ICJ. But I think the international community remains skeptic about the enforceability of international law. That is number 1. What is your view on that? I mean, going forward, even recently after the recent ICJ ruling, it was an advisory opinion. So many people are saying that, well, we can have 10 advisory opinion on Israel, but yet they don't care. Number 2 is on the 2-state solutions. Perhaps you can share your own personal views as well as the views of your government on whether that solution is still a viable solution for Palestinians. I think as far as the OIC countries are concerned, they still go for that kind of solution. And the international community seem to have no other solutions except that to recognize that only if there is a two-state solution, then the Palestinian will be free from the Israeli injustice. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Azril. Dr. Pandor, shall we?
Thank you very much. I think with the first question, it's true that what the ICJ provides are advisory decisions. They cannot enforce what they decide. However, we believe what was necessary was to place the actions of Israel and its impunity before the international stage so that all the world could see and be aware of the trauma and onslaught that the people of Palestine were being confronted with. And so we believe that the case was an important beginning of a process of bringing Israel finally before the international court. And I believe that we need to continue with the case because we must hear the evidence on the genocide that we have claimed is underway. And we would like that hearing on genocide, with all the evidence we have gathered, that it should be public so that the whole world knows what is being done and what the most powerful in the world are supporting to be done against the Palestinian people. We would, as I said yesterday, want to see the United Nations instruments, institutions, and mechanisms radically overhauled and made much more responsive to the conditions of the world that we see today. A very worrying gap in the United Nations is this inability to enforce. But it would have to be all of us as member states of the United Nations who agree to this new approach. But as South Africa, the government does believe the issue of reform to ensure enforcement is clearly an urgent matter that must be concretely pursued in the United Nations. I say, Madam Moderator, that I am not speaking for the government of South Africa.
Understood.
I happily retired just over a month ago. Yeah. I have been a minister for 20 years and a member of parliament for 30 years, and I thought it was time young people take over. So I'm speaking my views here.
All right. Dr. Pandor,
on the two-state solution, sorry. The position of the government of South Africa is that we continue to support the UN-agreed resolution on a two-state solution. But our view, just as with our own freedom, is that it is the people of Palestine and, I suppose, of Israel who will decide the nature of negotiated outcomes, because they will have to negotiate. We will not impose any solution on the people of Palestine. We don't believe any country should do that. It is something that the Palestinian people must determine. So you can't say to the Palestinian people, you cannot have Hamas as part of government. That must be their decision. I was criticized in a Zionist paper recently for saying this because they say I'm a Hamas supporter when I say the people of Palestine will decide, as every free people have the right to determine who will govern them.
Yes, most definitely. Thank you, Dr. Pandor. I believe we have another question from the floor. Anyone? Yes, Please, sir.
Good afternoon.
Yes.
My name is Anwar Hassan. I'm from an NGO, Club Bakti, Gunung Keledang. I have a question and also a disappointment to express here. My question relates somewhat to the two-state solution, particularly your comment, either in, I'm not sure where, YouTube or in The Hague, that Palestine should not be a fragmented state. It should not be in two pieces. There's no a West Bank and Gaza. It should be a contiguous land. But my problem is that I'm not able to visualize a map that will show that contiguity. So if, in a matter of words, if you could express to us, how would that map look like? That's my question. And my disappointment is actually with the Islamic world. To me, a lot of the problems that are faced today would not happen if there was unity amongst the Muslim nations. Even in terms of trade, I do not understand why Turkey would come to the rescue of Israel in supplying vegetables and fruits. There has to be a trade boycott, a unified trade boycott with unity amongst the Muslim nations. And I don't see that happen. And I'm not sure if it will ever happen. And to me, a lot of the problems faced by the Palestinians has to do with the lack of real support from the Islamic world. I would like your views on that.
Thank you, Mr. Anwar. Well, Dr. Pandor, some disappointment. Maybe you can enlighten us on that. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I thought Dr. Hassat was disappointed with me, and I was really worried. So I'm somewhat relieved. On the contiguous state that we propose is the only plausible outcome for the Palestinian people, we say this arising from our own experience of the creation of Bantustans by the apartheid state. And that does not allow you to have sovereign territory over which you exercise governance. So again, in our view, the actual conclusion will be through a process of deliberation and negotiation. And our hope would be that Palestine will have its own sovereign territory that is not balkanized into different small bits that make no meaning of the notion of a state. What it would look like, that map, I don't know. But the current position is untenable. And so I do believe that there would have to be engagement, and there are aspects of territory that will have to be given up, of the occupied territories would have to be given up by Israel. The settlements would have to be broken up, land will have to be returned. So there are a whole range of issues that would have to be addressed in a process of negotiation. On the Muslim world, through being given this job on this case at the ICJ, I unfortunately have made so many enemies. And I don't wish to antagonize my colleagues, former colleagues in the Muslim majority countries. So I'm going to answer your question in this way with respect. When South Africa was engaged in the struggle for apartheid, the greatest support in terms of refuge for our freedom fighters, training for our cadres, came from our neighboring states. Without that support, I don't think we would have been able to carry out the missions into South Africa that our freedom fighters carried out. What that support meant was that ordinary civilians in Botswana were murdered by apartheid soldiers. Police, civilians who were hosting us in Lesotho were bombed with parcel bombs and killed. Similarly in Swaziland, so in our neighborhood, our neighbors had to accept that by supporting us, they would be endangering themselves, but they never deserted us. So our struggle, we were able to make inroads because of our neighborhood. That's how I'll answer the question, without referring to the neighborhood of Palestine.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. Do you have any more questions? I do believe that. How about from those from behind? It's okay. Oh, yes. Please, sir.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ahlan wa sahlan, Dr. Pandor. My name is Muhammad Zamin. I'm also from the same NGO as the previous person who asked the question, that is Dr. Anwar. Otherwise, I'm just a freelance golfer, so to speak. Okay, now come back to the question.
And you are, sorry, again, your name?
Muhammad Zamin.
Muhammad
Zamin.
Muhammad Zamin.
Okay, I would say at the moment we have quite an interesting time, or maybe not interesting, maybe exciting time, where at the moment USA is heading for the election of the next president. So as we all know, we cannot just look away from what is happening in the US, as everything happened in Palestine has got very much to do with what the decision is made in the US. So I'm just wondering, in your opinion, who would be the better president, incoming president for America? Would you think Trump is the man, or Madam Kamala is the right person? Thank you.
All right, thank you, Mr. Muhammad Zamin. Well, Dr. Pandor, I guess that's a personal question. Yeah, again, your presence here is not representing South Africans' point of view. Would you like to share a bit on that?
My sense of the United States of America is that they have been very able to create a society in which there is much shared thinking on issues. So there's a homogeneity on many, many issues in the United States. So even when there's one party replacing another, you know that on the foreign policy track, you'll have much of the same. And I believe that that is what may happen, whoever wins. There's one part that I think is worse, but I won't say which one. But generally, it tends to be a very homogeneous society in terms of foreign policy perspective.
All right, thank you, Dr. Pandor. Yes, please, behind the mic, introduce yourself and your affiliation.
Okay. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum, Dr. Pandor. Selamat datang ke Malaysia. Welcome. My question is more specific to, like to hear your suggestion on what specifically the role of women in Malaysia, in Perak, across the world. What can we do to help out in this Palestinian struggle? Is there, of course, you know, together with everybody else, but is there anything more specific that we can do extra for the Palestinian struggle.
Thank you. Your name, affiliation?
Sorry.
Yeah.
My name is Duria.
Nuria, right.
Duria Sharifah Hassan Adli. I'm from University of Malaya, Center for Civilizational Dialogue.
All right. All the way from Kuala Lumpur.
Yes,
Thank you.
yes.
Thank you for coming. All right. Dr. Pandor, you mentioned about women being the forefront. So what can women contribute in this regard?
Well, what we must never forget is that the people of Palestine are denied all public services. They don't get sufficient humanitarian aid. So whatever we can donate and get into Palestine, we need to do that. But secondly, what is most important and what the people of Palestine often talk about, those that we have an opportunity to speak to, is they get nervous when the world makes them invisible. And so what I have asked, I'm not asking women in Malaysia to do this. I don't want to get into trouble with your government. But what I have asked women in South Africa to do is that every Jummah day, they must be protesting outside an embassy of a country that supplies arms to Israel. And just not a big protest. We don't want the protest to get out of order. Even if it's 5 or 10 women with a poster like this, Freedom for Palestine. If we do that regularly, and we do it all over the OIC countries, all over the African countries that are supporting the struggle, all over the countries in Latin America, and we encourage our ummah that we will be as women visible on a regular basis, we are whittling away. We are whittling away. But if we disappear and we wait for the million-person march, we can't do it every week or every day. So it is those small, regular interventions that make a difference. But I'm just telling you about South Africa. I'm not causing problems in Malaysia.
Yeah, thank you for that sharing, because I hope that does help Madam Nuria from Maybe can start something for the women, and we can get the ball rolling from there on. Yeah, right, a peaceful one, yeah, not a very demonstrative one, with that said, right, Dr. Pandor? Yes, do I see any more? Yes, sir. Oh yeah, we have 2. Okay, we'll have Dr. Hazer after Dr. I know you're from USAS. Yes, go ahead, Doctor.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. My question to Her Excellency is that since South Africa is a member of the founding member of BRICS, can BRICS deliver what UN has failed in response to, in respect of Palestinian justice? Thank you.
Doctor, may I have your name?
Hekmatullah from
USAS, right?
USAS.
Right. Okay, thank you. Dr. Pandor?
Yes.
BRICS.
I don't think BRICS can at this time, but I think at the moment, from the last summit of BRICS, the BRICS countries are on the right side of history. But I don't see them as active as they could be in supporting the cause of Palestine. South Africa certainly is. Brazil is very active. Russia has been very clear, and China is intervening much more. India has relations with Israel, particularly in the defense and other industries. But I think over time, you are seeing a stronger view among all the BRICS countries in support of freedom for the people of Palestine. The last declaration of the summit in August 23 stated this very, very clearly.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. I hope that helps to illuminate the question posed by our doctor from USAS. Yeah? Do you have any more questions? Just in case, if members of the floor would like to ask the question, and you would like to ask it in Bahasa Melayu, by all means, and we will try our best to capture the gist so that Dr. Pandor can, enlighten us with her answer. Right, Dr. Pandor. Yes, go ahead, Dr. Hazel. Yeah, forgot about you. Sorry, go ahead.
Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Good afternoon, Dr. Pandor. My question is this. Being a former member of cabinet in South Africa and post-ICJ, would you be able to share with us, have there been any negative pressures in terms of economy or in terms of trade that has been exerted to South Africa due to the ICJ case? Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Hazel, your affiliation?
I am from UITM Holdings.
Thank you. Thank you. So, Dr. Pandor?
I'm sure the pressure is going to be relieved now that I'm out of government, because I saw a recent statement from America. I think they're relieved I'm not there. Yes, there has been pressure. There was a threat to withdraw South Africa from participating in the Africa Growth Opportunity Program, which allows African countries some access to the American economic markets with freedom of tariffs or very low tariffs on the goods. This scheme is implemented through legislation that is reviewed every 5 years, and the review is up next year. So there were very strong threats that because of the position adopted by South Africa, and particularly the ICJ case, this is the real anger. They would not allow South Africa to be included in the act following the review. But I think they've retreated somewhat from that position. The second is legislators in particularly the House of Congress have developed a draft bill which is going to the House soon. And that bill provides that the President of the United States of America must initiate a process of reviewing all aspects of relations with South Africa. And they quote, Minister Pandor did this, Minister Pandor, and so on, because that's the underlying rationale for this proposed legislation. Now that Minister Pandor is not there, I don't know what's going to happen, but yes, there are those efforts to make it difficult for South Africa to enjoy economic opportunity. It is, I think, fortunate that over the years, South Africa has become a strong trade partner with China. And China is our #1 trading partner, and Africa has become our second largest. Third is Europe, and fourth is the United States of America. But of course, America is so big that you don't wish to be excluded. So I hope that on seeing our determination and our holding on to our principles, that our friends in the United States would understand that all we support is freedom for the Palestinians. We are not anti-Israeli people. We're not anti-Semitic by any means. And we hope they will understand that and see the good sense in continuing to have relations with South Africa, which is the second largest economy on the African continent.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. While we wait for others to come up and ask questions, maybe I have one question for you here, Dr. Pandor. It's pertaining to, given the fact that Malaysia, we are a rich multiracial, and we are also multi-religious and multicultural landscape. So how can we foster broader support for the Palestinians in regards to inspiring other, all racial and religious groups in Malaysia to unite, emphasizing that this as a fundamental matter of human rights and humanity. Again, in regards to the theme of this conference, Together We Stand, Muslims and Global Humanity. If you could share with us your thoughts on that.
Dr. Ahmad, I really want to thank you for asking this question because we had a really challenging time in our country on the case that we'd taken up for a little while. And this was because those who support Israel in our country were presenting this as a religious issue. And we are a majority Christian country. So what we did was that we encouraged our ummah, and particularly our ulama, to engage with the leaders of other faiths in South Africa and to explain that support for Palestine is support for human rights. It's not a religious struggle.
Yeah.
Any human being should be concerned about what is happening to Palestinian people. But it is important that you engage. Many people did not know that Palestine had been occupied for over 74 years. You had to give that explanation. You have to speak to people. You have to educate so that when people make a decision, they have the knowledge and understanding of why a particular position is being taken up. I must say that for these fundamentalist churches, these new ones that are funded all over Africa, they are much more difficult to persuade than the established Christian groups. But it is work that it should be done.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. So, we have any questions from the floor? Yes? Okay, yes, sir.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. I'm Warrant Officer 2 Muhammad Faris bin Saiful Bahrain from Air Force Academy, RMF. First of all, I would like to say thank you to you, Dr. Pandor, and the South African government. Because of your country, now the whole world opened their eyes and realized who is the Israel and Zionist was. And my question to you, Dr. Pandor, you as a former minister in the South Africa government, can you share to us, is there any latest effort or action by the South African government to support Palestine, particularly within frameworks of international forums, like in the United Nations General Assembly, UNGA, such as in we call it PBB? Is there any effort your country will do for the Palestine? Yeah. Thank you.
All right. Any efforts from the South African government in regards to, to support the struggle of Palestinians at this point of time? I mean, again, we know that you are no longer part of the government, but probably you could share, what you have actually, come to know of. And I believe that will enlighten our friend, Encik Fairuz. Thank you for the question. Right.
No, indeed, we have provided through the government funding for humanitarian support through a South African NGO led by Dr. Mohammed Suleiman, which is called Gift of the Givers. So through them, we have been providing funding for humanitarian aid for Gaza in particular. And we have worked with the government of Egypt to ensure that our aid gets to the people who need it, and we will continue that support. We also, of course, are the government that is funding and supporting the legal team that is presenting the case at the ICJ. And we also assist the Embassy of Palestine in South Africa so that it is able to function. We've been working at bringing young people from Palestine to study in South African universities, and we make easy access available to them through study visas and other forms of support. Doctors in South Africa also providing medical care to Palestinians that have suffered great injuries, terrible injuries in this war. So there are a range of activities that we are involved in. Many of our communities often have Saturday fairs where they sell goods and the money is for support to Gaza. So there's a great deal of activity that communities engage in, but at the government level, support is also being provided.
That's great to know. I believe in Malaysia we also have that kind of support as well for our fellow Palestinians. Any other questions before I have a few questions to ask you, but I would like to open it to the floor first. Yes, sir. We have two. Okay. Let's allow the ladies first. All right, the ladies. Over to you, Dr. Khalida.
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh, and a very good evening to everyone. I just would like to expand further on the issue of boycotts. In the last session, we talked about the halal business, we talked about the significance of the pharmaceutical business among Jewish organizations, and the opportunities that are available for the Malaysian pharmaceutical industry to prosper. Now, if I may say that, I think I'm not wrong to say that Jewish organizations monopolize the global pharmaceutical business. And in Malaysia, we are very much dependent on Jewish pharmaceutical companies to supply medical supplies for our health industry. So, could you share the South African experience? Have you all boycotted the Jewish companies along the way to show your support for Palestine? Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khalida. Dr. Khalida, your affiliation?
I'm from UTP.
All right.
Yeah?
So, okay.
Thank you.
All right. Understood. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We have not instituted a government boycott in South Africa, but it is something that civil society is demanding, and I think that the government is going to have to think about what they should do next, because the public is asking why you're not boycotting. So that is something I think that will confront the new government. We just had an election, there's a new government, and unfortunately, it is a combination of parties. It's a grand coalition, because no party got a majority in the elections, as we've had before. So this issue is on the table. We have a very strong boycott, disinvest, and sanction movement, BDS, in South Africa, and they are making this demand. Where there's been more action is consumer boycotts, where ordinary citizens have made a decision that they will not purchase any product that comes from Israel or from a company that has an association with Israel. So for example, when you go to a Muslim function, don't ask for Coke because everybody will look at you in horror because they
Don't
no
ask for
longer
Coke, yeah?
drink it.
All right.
And then the halal certifying authority in South Africa recently withdrew the accreditation of McDonald's, I think. And so people are not buying. And I saw yesterday in the business news that McDonald's has had a massive drop in income in South Africa. So consumers are taking their own action because I think it's important in a struggle not to always believe that it is the government that must act, because governments have responsibility to the entire citizenry. And I think it's very difficult for governments to be activists, but we as men and women and youth, we can be activists, and we actually can be a motive force for change. So I think we shouldn't neglect the power of popular action, because it is something that does make a difference.
Right. Thank you, Dr. Pandor. So power of the masses matters, because we cannot just rely on the government to make most of the actions. Yeah. So yes, sir.
Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum
My name is
assalam
Abdul Halim
wa
from Palestine, from Kitchen Tokyo, KL.
Oh.
I have two questions for Doctor. What is the similarity between Palestinian and South Africa, and what you think about future from Palestine after this war? Thank you so much.
So, okay, I did not get your name. Could you please repeat that?
Chef Abdul Halim.
Fakrul Halim.
Chef Abdul Halim.
Chef, okay. All right, we have two questions there just now, Dr. Pandor. One pertaining to the first question again, sir. Can you repeat that again?
What you think? What is the similarity between Palestinian people and South African people?
Civility?
Yes.
Relationship.
Similarity?
Yes, yes.
Yeah, similarity,
Thank you.
right.
Well, largely the similarity is that we are people who have had to undertake struggle for our freedom. This is a major, I think, commonality between Palestinians and South Africans. And this is why I think there's a very close bond between Palestinians and South Africans, because we understand what it is that the people of Palestine are experiencing. Essentially, Israel is practicing apartheid practices in Palestine. Under apartheid, although we were the majority people who were indigenous to South Africa, we were not recognized as citizens. We couldn't enjoy all the rights citizens would have. We couldn't marry who we would choose to marry. We couldn't live where we wished to live. We couldn't attend schools we wanted to attend. We couldn't read what we wanted to read. You would be arrested if you were found with a particular book. You would be arrested if you were not carrying this identity document, which was only for black people and no other. You would be put immediately in a police van, and you could be detained without any charge for however long the policeman or woman chose to keep you in a cell. You would be killed merely for wanting to be free. All of these features of apartheid I've referred to are being experienced by Palestinian people. We share commonality of the experience of struggle and the nature of oppression. In addition, We've also had our land seized from us. When I was speaking in Parliament in the first session this year, one of the parties that supports Israel said, when I was debating and I was on the podium, put up his hand and said, point of order, Speaker, to the chair. And the Speaker said, what do you want? He said, I want to ask Minister Pandor a question. Now, in our Parliament, they have to then say, Minister Pandor, will you accept the question? I knew that he wanted to say something about Palestine. So I said, yes, I'll accept the question. And he then stood up and he said, you are busy with Palestine and you are against Israel. What business do you have to be worried about Palestine? You should be worried about South Africa. It's a member from the opposition. His father served in the apartheid government. So what was my response? I said, you should be ashamed of yourself. We fought for freedom. When we became free, we took no action against you. We allowed you to enjoy freedom with us. And you love that freedom, don't you? And he nodded, and I said, why do you think Palestinians should not enjoy that freedom? So we need, and I think we also help to educate others about what the meaning of freedom is and how it should be something that everyone enjoys. And I think our closeness to the struggle of the Palestinian people allows us to even address those in South Africa who are almost right-wing, to educate them about humanity and about the responsibility and obligation all of us have toward others. So these are some of the lessons that come out of this relationship. Then on the future of Palestine, after the Gaza war, really it's difficult. I can't, say what it might be. I'm hoping that we will have the beginnings of a genuine process of negotiation, and that the Palestinian people will be given the right to determine their own future. I also hope that the world, having seen the horrors of what has unfolded in Gaza and now in Rafah, that the world will come to accept that it has a responsibility to find a way of protecting the innocent when they face harm. So I hope the world will have learned lessons from the experience of Palestinian people, and that out of this great tragedy, some good will be created.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. You have another question, sir?
I want to give him my coffee.
Is that possible?
I've got many kofiyas. I think Dr. Ahmad
This is
does
special for
have
you.
one.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, mashallah. Thank you, Shi. Thank you, Dr. Pandor. Yeah, mashallah. You need to. All right. Okay, sir. Yes. Please introduce yourself. This is Dr. Anwar again, is it, Dr. Anwar? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for giving me some time.
Yes.
My name again is Anwar Hassan from an NGO, Club Bakti Gunung Keledang. We often hear this. My question relates to leadership. Who is the leader of Palestine? If there's going to be negotiations, who will represent Palestine? And would the people, whoever is governing Gaza, see eye to eye with those in the West Bank? I'm worried about not just fragmentation of the land, but also fragmentation of leadership. If I can have your views.
This is something that we have discussed with the various actors in the occupied territories. And we have encouraged them to really look at addressing the levels of division and factionalism among the political groupings. So as to who will lead, I don't know. In the end, when we began negotiations in South Africa, it was clear that the ANC would be the leader. It was the largest, most established liberation movement. So it was able to lead. There were other groupings that came out of the liberation movement, but had a very different political ideology. They did join the negotiations eventually, but the party that was most organized, most prepared, most ready to participate and lead was the ANC. You don't have a similar situation in Palestine, but I think there's now, I see an appreciation that actually this issue of division, this issue of a unified force ready to take on the mantle, it's enjoying some discussion. The recent talks in Beijing were somewhat directed at achieving that, but it may very well take time. But what we are clear on, we can't impose a leadership on the Palestinian people. It is eventually their decision.
Yes, Tanua.
Perhaps you could share with us your prediction for the future.
Suddenly now you're an oracle.
Yeah. Oh gosh.
Oh gosh. It's such a...
I'm worried. Not because of Palestine, but I'm worried at what happens when external forces try to enjoy supremacy in an unfolding, complex political situation. So my concern is what the external forces will permit. And that is really my worry. The difference between the Palestinian struggle and that of South Africa is one, there was this big organization, the African National Congress. It had engaged in various forms of struggle, which the ANC calls the pillars of struggle. They involve mass mobilization. They involve armed struggle. They involve a range of actions that was seen as a necessary consolidation of a struggle. International solidarity was one. So the level of political sophistication in the liberation forces in South Africa allowed them to enjoy sway when negotiations began. So I think the Palestinian political groupings are going to have to focus on being coherent and organized before they can successfully negotiate an outcome. I also think that they must refuse to deliberate on a political negotiation until the reconstruction discussion is concluded. Because what happens if you rush too quickly to the political aspect of the future, then those countries that supported your destruction run away and say, you now have political authority, you solve your problem. So if I was them, I would really focus for now on reconstruction and preparing for political deliberations.
Thank you, Dr. Pandor. Dr. Anwar, you still have another question? A follow-up question, all right. Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
Who do you think will take over Mahmoud Abbas when he's gone?
I don't want to say, they've expressed views to me, but I wouldn't want to share them in public.
But one thing I must say, I see a lot of prominent Palestinians expressing themselves, but they're expressing from outside of Palestine.
Yeah.
So I do not see leadership within Palestine. In fact, I mean, you have a lot of fantastic people based in Doha, but they're speaking from Doha.
Yeah.
Nobody is speaking from Palestine.
So I think then, Dr. Ahmad, what you need to do, because you lead a significant NGO, you need to convene a meeting of all those leaders and put them on notice, just as you've done with me.
All right. Oh, yes. Do we have another question? Yes.
Okay,
Over to you.
I hope it's going to be the last questions.
All right. Your name, affiliation? Yeah.
Nordli from Institute Rizwan. Again, thank you for having us as part and parcels of your journey here in Ipoh. My question is going to be very simple, because I think the session today is quite serious. But for us, brothers and sisters in Malaysia and in Perak, how your advice, Doctor, on how can we be istiqamah in our solidarity with our brothers and sisters in Palestine? For your information, bro, my favorite drink is Coca-Cola. It's a struggle for me to boycott Coca-Cola completely. So, your advice, how can we be istiqamah in our justice for our brothers and sisters in Palestine?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, Dr. Pandor.
You must ask the producers of cool drinks in Malaysia to create a Malaysian Coca-Cola. That's what they've done elsewhere.
Yeah. All right. So I think, and how to be istiqamah, because that's another question.
Yeah. Oh,
yeah.
Gosh. Yeah. You answer.
All right. Oh. Well, probably the best thing is to stay away from one can every week and then move on to 2 cans the following week. So eventually you will stay away from Coke. That's our advice to continue the journey of istiqamah towards supporting the struggle of the Palestinian, our brothers and sisters. All right, with that said, we are almost done with our session, Dr. Pandor.
I think,
do you have any?
Yes. I think if I could say that apart from consumer boycotts, there are other things we can do. We can write to newspapers. We can write articles. Gathered in this room are persons who are literate. Being literate means use your intellect to good effect. And not enough of us are writing. If you read The Economist and other journals, the kinds of views that are presented there don't reflect views that we seem to share here. Why are we not writing? Why are we not on interview programs? Why are we not developing our sites, our blogs, or whatever they are called? Everybody keeps saying, I saw you on YouTube. Even at the airport, some man ran after me. Can I take a photo with you? I've seen you on YouTube. I don't watch YouTube. So why don't we use the power of media to advocate in our millions for support for the people of Palestine? So if we're just doing 2 things a week that advance this cause in some way, then maybe we can drink the Coke. But if we're doing nothing and waiting for the grand solution, then I think we're not serving our cause well.
Yes, indeed, Dr. Pandor. So it's about all these small actions, we come together and form the solidarity towards supporting our brothers and sisters in Palestine to be able to allow them to enjoy freedom. Everyone will be able to participate and contribute in their own ways. So with that said, thank you so much, Dr. Pandor. You've been such an inspiring person for us to get to know, and we would like to have you again here in Malaysia, inshallah, and in Perak. And thank you to the host of this event, Dato' Sri Sarani, for supporting Dr. Pandor for this session, and WCIT for us to be able to have this exclusive session with you, Dr. Pandor. And with that said, thank you very much. We actually have 11 questions from the floor, and that is brilliant. And a big hand to Dr. Pandor for, sharing with us her insights on the Palestinian struggles. So over to you, Shaf. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Maisarah, and also Dr. Naledi Pandor for the insightful session. So ladies and gentlemen, as we come to the end of the session, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to Her Excellency Dr. Naledi Pandor for her inspiring insights, and also to Dr. Maisarah Ahmad for moderating the session wonderfully. Her Excellency Dr. Naledi and also Dr. Maisarah kindly remain on stage, as I would like to invite Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani Mohamad, Menteri Besar of Perak, together with Yang Berbahagia Datin Sri Eza Zubin, onto the stage to present the token of appreciation to our distinguished speaker. Thank you Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani, Yang Berbahagia Datin Sri Eza Zubin, Her Excellency Dr. Naledi Pandor, and also Dr. Maisarah Ahmad. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a photography session. I would like to invite all photographers to come onto the stage to capture this moment. Our audience may remain seated. Ladies and gentlemen, we will now have a photography session. Our audience may remain seated, and I would like to invite all photographers to come onto the stage to capture the moment. Ladies and gentlemen, please prepare for the group photo. Sila penuhkan ruangan di hadapan Kepada yang di belakang. To those at the back, please come to the front. Thank you. Okay, let's prepare for the group photo. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Okay, one more. 1, 2, 3. Peace. Okay, thank you to the photographers and also to ladies and gentlemen. So we have reached the conclusion of our session. On behalf of the organizing committee, I would like to convey our sincere thanks to Her Excellency Dr. Naledi Pandor for her profound insights and also for Dr. Maisarah Ahmad for moderating the session. A special thank you to Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani Muhammad and Yang Berbahagia Datin Sri Eza Subin for honoring us with your presence today. And also to all our esteemed guests and participants for joining us this evening. As we close, may we continue to strive for justice and understanding in all our endeavor. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing you in our upcoming session. Now, I would like to invite Yang Amat Berhormat Datuk Sri Sarani Muhammad, Her Excellency Dr. Naledi Pandor, and all VIP guests for refreshments. Okay. And following this, we also would like to invite everyone to join us for a tea break at the foyer of the hall located upstairs. Thank you and have a wonderful evening.